Welcome to the Empower Her Wellness Podcast. I'm Morgan, and I'm thrilled to be your host and wellness coach as we navigate the path to a healthier, more confident you. As the owner of Get Fit With Me, I bring years of experience in personal training, nutrition, and coaching to each episode. Join me as we explore practical tips and strategies for fitness, nutrition, mindset, and more, all tailored for busy women just like you. Let's empower your wellness journey and achieve lasting transformation together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Empower Her Wellness Podcast, where we talk about all things health and empowerment for you as women. Today, I'm going to share a little story to get started, then we're going to get into our discussion. A few weeks ago, it was right before Christmas. My sister came in from New York, and my mom, my sister, and I, we like to do something. Instead of getting each other gifts, we like to go do something, whether it's a trip or an activity or a class, whatever that is. Probably flashback to 3 or 4 months prior to that. I was walking down Rio Town here in Lansing, and I stumbled upon this place called the Wheelhouse, and it had a bunch of pottery wheels. And I had just gotten back from Washington with Danielle and Jamie. And when I was with Jamie, we had made mugs. And I wish I had my mug with me today to show you. But essentially, what it was is we went in there, they gave us a slab of clay. We cut out our mug, we placed it together, we put stamps on it. We glazed it, and then we left it there, and they fired it, and they did all their things. So I left that, and I just remembered how much I enjoyed taking pottery class in high school. I loved it. It was so much fun to be in the clay, to create something that you weren't entirely sure how it was going to turn out. It could be a complete bust, or it could be something super fun and awesome. Left Washington, came back, was really inspired, was walking through Rio Town, found this place called the Wheelhouse. They weren't open at the time, so I just looked in the window and I could tell they had pottery wheels. Flashback to high school where I made pottery. I took a few courses, or a few classes, I should say, and it was a ton of fun. I loved it. And my bowls were successful. I still use them to this day. You've actually probably seen them in some of my posts. They're the blue ceramic bowls that I tend to post most of my food pictures out of because they're just so pretty and they're heavy duty and they've lasted a really long time, 10 years at least. So the Wheelhouse, I talked to my mom and my sister, and I was like, hey, how about this year we try something we haven't done before? My mom's never done pottery. My sister never took the pottery class in high school. So I was like, let's do it. I missed being and doing actual pottery instead of just glazing like most places offer. So called up there. Abby and Dan were amazing. They opened up a session just for us three. So it ended up just being my mom, my sister, and I, which was super fun. And when you got there, we glazed something that they had already made. Because a lot of times when people go over to the pottery wheel, they're not successful. And they wanted them to be able to walk away with that win. Similar to like what we do when we work together is we find that one win, whether it's a water goal that you're already doing, and then we build on that. So anything after, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. We're trying something new, but we're at least walking away with a win. So Abby and Dan, they had us glaze something. So we knew that when in a couple months, when we picked up our glaze, we would have at least something. Even if we didn't make it, we glazed something and it was ours. Then we went over to the pottery wheel side, which is the fun side, in my opinion, because you can glaze just about anywhere, but the pottery side is the fun part. So Dan started giving instructions. I'm not always the best at sitting and listening to all the instructions. I've got more of a creative mind. I've always enjoyed drawing, coloring, clay, all that artsy stuff. Like I've always enjoyed it. I've never been super awesome at it, but it just brings me a lot of joy. So I, of course, jump in. My mom and my sister sit there listening to Dan. They are taking the instruction. I move forward and I just start going because I remember the movement pattern from when I was in high school. And it just was so awesome to sit there and remember that if this doesn't turn out, it's okay. My mind was so free, but also so fixated on making sure my technique was good. So it was like a weird balance between trying something that I haven't done in a while, being okay that it failed, but also at the same time being really excited for what this could possibly be. Long story short, we all ended up being successful. We made a ton of bowls, cups, things like that. You walk away with just one piece. You can purchase more. I had two bowls that I really liked. I purchased my second bowl just because I thought, why not? But it was such a fun experience. And for all of us, it gave us the creativity to try something we haven't done and be okay with the frustration in it if there was any. And Dan did a fantastic job of like really setting our expectations super, super low of, hey guys, people don't typically do anything over here. It is always a mess. They end up with nothing. The thing falls apart. He set the bar super low, which when we made and we created anything, it was super awesome to say, hey, we did more. We excelled. We tried something new and we did really well at it. Bringing that story into today's conversation, I was listening to a podcast, Fed Women, and it was recommended to me through a friend. And she just sent me an episode. And in this episode, they posed a question of, at the end of your day, do you tune out to unwind or do you plug in to unwind? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is at the end of your day, or when you are feeling overwhelmed and frustrated and anxious and just like everything is just moving so fast, when you are in those moments, do you tune out or do you plug in to help your body unwind? And like I said, I listened to this podcast a while ago, probably about 5 days ago now, and I've been thinking about this and starting to notice what my patterns, what my habits are. And I am typically out of habit and routine, I'm a tune out to unwind person. I pick up my phone, I doom scroll, I do all of those things. I turn on Netflix. Yeah, I'm still watching. I sit there and I mindlessly do things that don't really help my mind unwind, but they're super good because it's nice to do things that you don't have to think. I noticed that. And I also noticed how much time I was spending on my phone, how much time I was spending in front of the screen. And their our screens are built to do that to us. So we have to try really hard to fight against that. When I started to notice that, I started to plug into unwind, which really means for me is doing something while your mind is unwinding. For instance, that can mean playing an instrument. For me specifically, it means coloring or doodling, or I have a bunch of like craft kits, like doing a craft. Maybe that's a puzzle. Like I was doing something with my mind. Maybe it's a card game and I will play cards while we're watching TV because it's like something that helps us unwind, but we're not just sitting there mindlessly watching the TV while scrolling on our phones. So I started to notice that and I've started to be really intentional at the end of my day of, okay, as I'm unwinding, am I plugging in or am I going to tune out? And because typically when we tune out, not just life, but we turn out those around us and we become very unpresent. Yesterday, for instance, I got home and I got this new thing for Christmas. It takes all the little like balls and pills off your clothes. I sat there with my earbuds in and listened to Netflix as I took all the pills. And that was so relaxing for my brain to just see that satisfaction. So it doesn't have to be a craft, it doesn't have to be something creative, but there are benefits to that creative side. And we all have the creative part in our brain. Some of ours is stronger than others. You may know people who are just artsy and super creative all the time. And you may be thinking, I can't even draw a circle. And that's okay because we all have that part of our brain and it all is and it's all important to bring out who we are and discover who we are. In the show notes, before I get too far here, I want to remind you that there's going to be multiple links, but these are the two I want you to focus on. One is the link to our free Facebook group. So in there, I want you to click on that link and I want you to go to our community and I want you to post something of you doing something creative. You're going to see some pictures of me coloring, some pictures of the pottery I've done, things like that. Like I'm going to show you some of my examples in there. The other thing that I want you to be aware of in the show notes is you're going to see a link to a Google Doc with all of these different examples to plug into unwind when you feel like you're falling into that tuning out session. Because, like I said, there is a place for each, but typically we fall more into that tuning out more than we probably should. Because all that leads it's really hard on our mindset when we are fixated on our phone and the television all the time. As we get into some of these examples, I want to share. We've got some really fun ones here today and some fun ideas that I really like. These are personally for me. I've done some research on these of what other people like to do. So sign up for a class, whether it's pottery, cooking. I've got a client, he is a hobbyist. So, like any sort of thing between glass blowing to forging to cooking classes to whatever it is, he has tried it. That is what he loves to do, is he loves to try a new hobby. Whether he does it for a whole year or just that one class, doesn't matter. He's trying something new, and that's how he likes to express his creative juices. And I love that portion. Maybe you're taking a wreath class. I know one of my other clients over Christmas break, she went and made a wreath. She had a class. Maybe it's painting with a twist. Sometimes it's easier to do these creative things when somebody else is around you, and it's still unwinding. Just because you're with others doesn't mean you're not unwinding. You're still unwinding when you're with others. It's calming the brain. Some other ideas, or do a puzzle. Puzzles are super awesome. And I think honestly, post COVID, people got into them a little bit more because we were stuck at home. But I know a ton of people who continue to do puzzles because they're mindless. There's a little bit of brain thinking that has to happen. Where does this piece go? What's the color? Things like that. Matching games, all sorts of those. The more we can actually pull off our technology, the better. So if you can get real puzzles, if you can get real matching games and things like that in person, fantastic. Sudoku, things like that. But if you can't, use your phone, use your device because that's what you have. The other thing to remember is any of these, your local library probably has access that you can borrow. Coloring or doodling, this is one of my favorite. I have adult coloring books. Some of them are just geometric shapes. I got one off Amazon and it was cocktails because we like to try different cocktails. We like to make them at home, but I wanted to make it more fun. So anytime we can't try the cocktail until I've colored the page type of thing. So I'll pull out that coloring book every once in a while when I feel like we want to make a cocktail at home. I look at it, see if we even have the stuff, and then I color the page and then we try the recipe on the page. So I know there's a ton of coloring books out there like that are just mindless. Crayons, colored pencils, markers. I'm a colored pencil type of girl. Something about being able to dark and light shade is just very satisfying. Crayons, I feel like they're just a little bit more flimsy, and markers to me go everywhere. The other fun thing I like to do is Target had these really fun watercolored pens where it was like a pen and you just get it a little bit wet and it turns into like your typical your watercolor palette. I don't know if you remember those as kids, but like it was that palette where like you got water in your paintbrush, but it was a little bit nicer. I got some canvases for $12. I entertained myself for 6 days. For 6 unwinding times, I entertained myself and it was fun. What do I do with these canvases now? I can repaint them. I can repaint them white and repaint them. I can donate them. I can give them away. It doesn't matter. I think that's the other part is when we think about creativity and crafts, we sometimes get caught in what do I do with this stuff? You can give it away as gifts. You can donate it. You can get rid of it. It's just the thought of getting your mind moving, getting yourself creative. Some other ideas were read a book or a magazine. I know a lot of you are readers and you want to try to read more because you just don't have the time. Maybe your reading is your unwinding time. You can have a spa session at home. I love doing this because it keeps me very present. I will do my toenails. I will do a little face mask. I will do a little hand scrub, like things like that, just really getting me in tune with my body and helping me unwind and decompress rather than just staring at my phone or the TV. Baking, gardening. I know it's winter in Michigan, so like you're not probably doing a lot of gardening, but maybe you have indoor plants you're taking care of. Maybe you're growing herbs, things like that. On the podcast I was listening to, one of the things that they mentioned were playing an instrument. She had just gotten a violin because she likes playing instruments and she wanted to learn and she was just going to teach herself. So maybe there's an instrument you've been wanting to try, but you've been too afraid to. And try it, get it, borrow it, rent it, and see if you can figure it out. Like I said, your local library tends to have a lot of this stuff too. So check that out. Knitting or crocheting, needlepoint. I feel like needlepoint's coming back in around the things that are trending again these days. Like Joann Fabrics and Marshalls are like so much fun to go walk around. Go find a kit, try it out, see if you like it. If you hate it, that's okay. Don't eat it. Let's give it to somebody else to finish the project. That's okay. A few more ideas here where guided meditation or a stretch session. You can pull up YouTube. I know Yoga with Adriene is really popular for a lot of people. I like to go to a hot yoga class because typically when I am unwinding there, I really am able to tune into my mind and gain some clarity on things that I probably have not been wanting to come up against because they are difficult conversations. They're difficult things that I don't want to have a conversation with myself about. So instead, I scroll on my phone or I watch Netflix. So when I start to find myself avoiding those conversations and needing to have a little bit of courage to move forward, hot yoga is my favorite because I put myself in the back. And I give myself permission to not have to do every move, to go at whatever flow I need to go with. And maybe that means just child's pose. Maybe that means just corpse pose. Whatever that looks like and means to me that day is what I end up doing. So I'm not stuck. I'm not forced to have to do it. I'm giving myself permission. Some of the other ones are a sensory walk. And these last two, really these last three, because yoga is pretty active, but these last couple are activities to help you unwind that get you out of the house, that get your body moving. And movement is a really good way to help your body unwind. And whether that's high intensity or low intensity, I find lower intensity helps my brain decompress. Higher intensity exercise gets my endorphins going and gets me really excited and ready for the day. Low intensity exercise just gets the blood flowing and makes me feel good, helps clear my mind. So, a sensory walk is when you go outside and you ideally leave your phone at home. But if you are somebody who, honestly, I don't leave mine at home, I feel a sense of safety to need to have it. So, with that, I put it in my pocket, I put it on Do Not Disturb. I make sure that I have it on me in case there's an emergency, but I do not look at it. I do not put earbuds in. I just go and I listen to the trees, listen to the birds. I look around. I notice things in my environment. If you're able to be barefoot, like in your backyard, I don't recommend walking the street barefoot, but if you're like just walking around your yard, go barefoot, ground yourself. The grass and having your shoes off is super important. Our feet are so sensitive that over time, the more we have shoes and the more we have socks, the less sensitive they become. We want to be able to feel every single thing in our feet. So it's important to have those shoes off, to feel that grass, to walk through some stones, to walk over some dirt. Things like that feel really good. And being able to tune in to yourself and notice, what's my breathing doing? Wow, that tree really looks different. I didn't notice that looked that way. That opens your mind up. It also gets those creative juices going. By being outside and moving, you are going to be inspired. You're going to have different ideas. And even just being able to do this with someone else is also really good. Maybe you have somebody you haven't seen in a while. Set up a time to actually walk with them and talk to them in person. Catch up on your day. Come up with different things that you guys are inspired about that you want to try. And then the final one is try a new exercise hobby. So, pickleball is huge. If you have been wanting to try pickleball, try pickleball. Sign up for a class. We have a few different pickleball places. Like clubs get together at the park for free. Go to a park one day and see if they're playing pickleball. Ask if you can play. The YMCA's got pickleball. All these places, pickleball is huge. If that is something that you've been wanting to try, stop waiting. There's hundreds of opportunities, especially here in Lansing. Like I know somebody, the owner of Reno's North, she's got her own pickleball gym at her house and she hosts all these things. And I'm just like, that's awesome. That's so much fun. So I know there are things out there. Maybe it's golf. One of the things that I'm going to try this year is Indian Hills or Indian Trails. There's a course in Okemos. It's a 9-hole walking course. They have a 6-week league for women beginner golfers. I wouldn't say I'm quite a beginner, but I'm not intermediate. I'm somewhere in between, depending on how often I've played. But I want to get better and I want to get out and move. And being able to walk the course makes me feel good. Being able to swing a club, move my body, try something and try to get better at something I'm not 100% confident and really good at is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try that this summer. If they bring up the league again, I'm going to sign up for it. Maybe you want to try tennis. Maybe it's wintertime and one of the gyms near you has a beginner tennis league. Go try it out. Go take a lesson. It's okay to try things that you are going to be bad at. And so often we don't have the courage or the confidence to go out there and suck, to go out there and look silly, to go out there and just not look the way we want to look. And we shouldn't be deterred for doing something we want to do, something that calms our mind, something that gets those creative juices going just because of the way we might look or we're going to look. So I'm going to ask the question again. Now that I've given you some examples of ways to plug in to unwind rather than just tuning out, what do you do more of? To unwind from your day, to help your brain get back to where it needs to be. Do you tune out or do you plug in? And if you are somebody who tunes out, there is a place for it. I was completely honest with you. I do it way more. I tune out way more than I plug in. But I'm being more intentional. I've got my mindset on, I don't want to just tune out. I don't want to tune out the world. I don't want to tune out the people around me. I don't want to just fall into this fog. I want to be present. And if that is what you want, I recommend just starting to notice. Oh, see myself scrolling again. Okay, go check out that list in the show notes. Pick something off of there. Maybe you're going to pull out a game. Maybe you're going to play solitaire on your own. Maybe you're going to read a book. Maybe you're going to grab the crochet needles that have been sitting in the corner forever. Maybe you're going to go take a walk. Whatever that looks like, do something. Have a list. Go to that list and pick something on there and just try it for 5 minutes. If you are somebody who plugs in, congratulations. You are already very self-aware that the tuning out can get very, I don't want to use the word dark, but it can get dark and it can make us feel very inside and isolated. Good job for noticing that and starting to be conscious and to actually be implementing these things. Remember, it takes courage to do things that are not normal, things that are uncomfortable, things that you have never done before. And it can look like trying that new hobby. It can look like going out and taking a walk when you don't ever do that. It could even look like not hitting the snooze button when your alarm goes off in the morning. It takes courage to actually fight against that natural habit that we have of, I'll do it later. No, 5 more minutes. It takes courage and it takes work. And if you are somebody who wants to become more present, you want to start being there for you, being there for others, and not letting yourself fall into the background when you unwind at the end of your day, then I need you to have courage. I need you to show up for yourself, create a list of things that you are going to try this year, things that you are going to be able to gravitate and go for when you find yourself doom scrolling. Sat there. Yes, I've told Netflix I'm still watching 6 times. We've all been there and I'm still there. I am not perfect. I am still somebody who sits there and does those things. But I've noticed I put a limit on my phone and I'm being very conscious that I do not push ignore. And if I start to realize I'm pushing ignore, I will delete social media off my phone because I do not want it to be something that consumes me. I want to be consumed by something that's creative, that makes my mind grow, that makes me feel really good, that inspires me to want to talk to others and share with others and not just caught in everything else that's being out there that's not my real life. I want to start living my real life and not somebody else's. So, as we wrap up here today, I want to remind you that whether you are tuning out or you're plugging in, or you're maybe doing a little bit of both, you are doing amazing. There's no right or wrong spot to be. But I do highly recommend and encourage you to, if you are somebody who is tuning out, to really start to notice how often is that happening. And when you actually plug in, do you start to feel better? Physically, mentally, emotionally? Do you feel more empowered? Do you feel more confident? What are those things that make you feel better when you plug in rather than just tuning out the world? So, with that, I want to remind you to go check out the show notes and go focus on 2 of the links. There's going to be multiple in there. One of them is going to be the link to our free Facebook group. Jump in there, share some photos of some things you are doing to plug in while you unwind. The other link I want you to focus on is that list of activities. I just shared some of them, but there's also things on that list that we did not have a chance to talk about today. And they may be like, that's what I'm looking for. So make sure to go to the show notes, click on that link, and you can have that full copy. I want you to have these ideas, print them off, and keep them in a spot that you can go to when you find yourself tuning everyone and everything out in the world. So until next time, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all next week. Thank you for listening to the Empower Her Wellness Podcast. I hope you feel more empowered and ready to tackle your wellness goals. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, feel free to send me a message. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review to help us reach more women just like you. Until next time, take control of your wellness and keep empowering yourself every day.